Hi everybody, Ranger Nick here, and this is the Boston Commonwealth. I found myself here shortly after completing my stint with the Legion and helping take over the Boston Wasteland. You see, I found myself a robot that offered to send me back in time so that I could experience the world anew. Shortly after which I met a nice woman named Nora, she's dead now, and had a wonderful baby son named Sean, who is missing. Then, after a nuclear war and being cryogenically frozen for who knows how many years, I found a man named Preston Garvey who made me the general of the Minutemen. Obviously, he was a fool. But now, as my new position of general seems to be a permanent fixture of this Boston Commonwealth, I've decided to make this series of training videos to help the Minutemen in their quest to not die.
The Adventures of Ranger Nick. Yeah! Now the Mirelurk is a dangerous foe, and many of them exist in the Commonwealth. When engaging a new foe, it's important to understand the weaknesses of said foe. Now, of course, you can't go and talk about Mirelurks without talking about the most basic Mirelurk of all. The regular, generic Mirelurk is the one you'll most likely find when entering any area that you're likely to find Mirelurks in. These areas usually include oceans and ships, as well as areas that are wet. The regular Mirelurk has several things helping it not die. For one, it has a protective shell that, upon usual inspection, seems to be mildly reflective of beams of laser light shot at it, implying that the Mirelurk has a higher energy resistance than ballistic resistance. However, this is not actually the case, as Mirelurks are about equally as resistant to ballistic and energy weaponry. In combat, the Mirelurk will often be crouching down to charge at you. This behavior is often seen after a headshot, as it understands that its face is the weakest point on it. However, this does work both ways, as the face is the weakest point on any regular Mirelurk, so if all you have is one shot, I suggest a bullet to the head, as that will usually take care of any Mirelurk problems that you have. The Mirelurk Hunter is the next Mirelurk up the chain, and it obviously has a much different design than the regular Mirelurk does. It seems to have evolved from the lobster life here in the Commonwealth, hence the body that's a lot more elongated and shelled in general. However, unlike the regular Mirelurk, you'll rarely find a hunter crouching down to come at you, so you can freely take shots at its face, which is of course still the weak point on these creatures. Like the basic Mirelurk, a hunter only has resistances that are equal to each other, aside from its poison resist, which is much higher than normal. However, since resistances are equal, the usual strategy of many bullets to the face is generally your best bet, and will generally lead to the death of your prey. The most dangerous of Mirelurks comes in one of two forms. Either the dangerous Mirelurk Queen, seen here, spitting a spray of what seems to be acid from my experience at my unsuspecting face, or the Mirelurk King. The Mirelurk Queen has two main modes of attack. Its spitters, which it shares with the hunter, although it is much more effective on the Queen's part, and its massive body, which it uses to crush you with ease. The Queen is a formidable opponent that you generally will not have any amount of ease overcoming, although you can see that it's more based off of the lobster than the crab, which is probably why it spares a spitting thing, isn't it? The Queen is slightly more resistant to energy weapons, but as with all Mirelurks, the head is the weak point you want to aim to, so I suggest either a bullet or a highly charged bit of plasma to the face as a method for wiping out queens. The Mirelurk Queen will also release hatchlings, which are not much of a threat. Mirelurk hatchlings. Now these things are generally worthless, but you shouldn't let them pile up on you as they have done with me. They can, in large enough groups, present a viable threat to your survival. But a good smack with your gun should be enough to finish them off, because they don't really have that much health in the first place. The Mirelurk King is of course the male variant of the Mirelurk, and it has several devastating attacks at its disposal. You can faintly see the residue of a psionic attack that it has just launched at little old me. Of course, I'm not going to have much problem surviving, as I have many weapons and of course am the general here. However, unlike its other counterparts, the Mirelurk King is much more susceptible to ballistic damage. So, as I do like to suggest for most creatures, a good bullet to the face is your best strategy for taking out a Mirelurk king.
This has been Ranger Nick's guide to Mirelurks. If you guys want to see a particular guide to survival in the Commonwealth, then go ahead and comment what you want to see at the bottom of this here video. Otherwise, this has been Ranger Nick, and remember, the best strategy is usually a bullet to the head. But barring that, stay fancy, sloths.